Welcome to the next episode of MDG Boston's MedTech Mastermind Videocast series. I'm your host, Ilse Wiebeck from MedTech Strategies. This Videocast series was designed to bring more voices from MDG Boston to our community, and we cover a set of 5 questions with some of the brightest minds in the industry. I'm thrilled to have with me today Andrew Celentano, Senior Director of Business Development at Start LLC. Andrew, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. By the way, I want to thank the whole MDG group. We're very proud to be sponsors with you folks, and we've been doing it for years. I remember those famous meetings at Babson College, and Jeff's doing a great job. You are, see Bill Munger, all the great people there. I know you guys work and also do this on the side. It's just a wonderful privilege to be here. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Before we get started on the questions, I did want to take a moment to remind our viewers a little about MDG Boston. So MDG was founded over 20 years ago as a networking and information sharing group, and it's grown to host in-person and online forums, networking events, and educational gatherings, as well as provide online resources through our website. What started as a small restaurant gathering with friends is now an internationally known organization with about 10,000 in our network and about 20 sponsor organizations. But next, I'm excited to share some insights from our guests. So Andrew, let's get to the first question.
Okay.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and share your background and area of expertise?
I don't know if I can do anything briefly with just, and then a friend of mine that I know back at IBM said, I'm working at this medical device company. You should come work for me. And that was the change for me. So 10 years ago, and I've been in this industry ever since. And I followed my boss around to 2 other companies. So I've actually been with 4 different companies over the last 10 years and absolutely love it. I'm very excited to be at the start because I just love how Paul handles his clients and what he does, the kinds of products he does and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, I really value individuals that come from different industries or have worked in different spaces. Do you have that exposure and experience from the other areas to bring to the development of the medical technology? So I think that definitely brings a great view for your clients. So what do you consider to be the most interesting or impactful innovations or trends in the medtech space?
There are so many that it's hard to pick one. Obviously, we have to talk about AI because it's all over the place. So I'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to do it cautiously because it's funny when GPT was announced and pushed really hard about a year ago. I use it to analyze, maybe it wasn't quite a year, but 9 months ago, whatever. I use it. I said, look at my website, it's the Start website, and tell me what's the best way to market. And it came back and said, well, obviously you're in the commercial space, and gave me this whole list of things. And I went back and said, well, I don't know, where are you getting that? We don't do anything with Sanyo or Sears or, all these technical companies. And it said, well, I only looked at it briefly. I only looked at your website briefly. What? How could that be? Okay, that's AI not quite working right yet. So if AI is taking human intelligence and accelerating it, let's hope that it's truly human intelligence, not human with all its fallible issues too. So, that's a kind of a little bit of a cautionary tale there. Anyway, but I want to talk about one shameless plug is I do love my job because I spend about 2 or 3 hours a week just going through about 6 or 7 sites on the latest medical technical innovations, and I put them all on a blog. So if you go to startllc.com/blog, at the beginning of the week, you'll usually by noontime on Monday, you can go through and just blow through a whole bunch of things and see some amazing things. For example, I was just shocked by this, but people that are in the industry probably know, but there's an ankle bracelet now for help with urinary urges. So evidently there's some kind of shared neural process that's along the ankle. If you wear this thing, you can actually help with the urinary incontinence. That just blows my mind that there's even that. I mean, it almost sounds like something from like an acupuncturist might tell you or whatever. Start actually, the company I'm in now, Start LLC, has built a tool for GERD that uses RF and nitinol needles and actually allows people in an outpatient procedure to literally stiffen up the esophagus around the top of the stomach and walk out and eat normally the next day.
Wow.
It's just, phenomenal.
Wow.
So I love stuff like this. I love the technologies we're working with now. One of the things I'm seeing from a trend standpoint is a lot of women now are active in the field, and a lot of women are becoming CEOs and startups. And I was part of WITI, Women in Technology, for a few years, and it's great to see the things that women are now doing. So I saw something just recently with a instead of a pap smear going into the clinic, you basically can just take this collection cloth on a sanitary pad and mail it in. And from the from the menstrual blood, you can actually figure out, is there an issue here or not? I think
Yeah,
that's, it's going to be wonderful for the third world and for women that don't want
it's
to have that
convenience.
invasive
Yeah.
thing. Obviously, COVID testing, and now we're seeing that in your home. I mean, we're familiar with that, but imagine testing for strep throat, flu, RSV, just about anything. We'll be able to just do that in our home. So incredible technologies there. What I love right now is I'm seeing a real movement towards lessening the trauma to patients. The
Mm.
kinds of things we're doing today. I just saw something the other day that was very clever. Now, some of you may not appreciate this, but when I had my second colonoscopy, I decided not to have any drugs at all. And I do not recommend that, but I wanted to see what actually happened. I got to tell you, they are pushing that thing in like they're pushing a car. It's kind of scary. And sometimes there are punctures from that. And, they actually, unfortunately, I mean, there's such force to go around the corners of this thing.
Mhm.
So I met a guy recently that came up with a wonderful invention. It's basically a runway for
Mm.
a colonoscopy. So what it does is it kind of hindsightly gets directed up there easily, and then you set up a balloon and it stretches out, and then it creates a pathway for the colonoscope that doesn't require almost any pushing. I mean, that's
Mm.
that's the kind of creative thing we're seeing now.
Yeah.
So people are thinking about how can we create less trauma and less risk for the hospital, less risk for the doctor.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so I'm seeing a lot of that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm seeing also a trend towards really miniaturization on the grand scale. I saw something the other day, and I was familiar with AFOA, which is a spinoff of MIT that was using basically putting electronics inside silicone or like substance like silicone and stretching it very thin
Mm.
and being able to use it in fabrics. But they're also using it now for DBS, for deep brain simulation.
Mm.
So they're still in the development stage of it, but the amazing thing is you can actually get through the blood vessels into the brain, into the very area of the cortex that's for blood muscle control movement, and almost eliminate any of the challenges you have with typical strokes anywhere in the brain. So
Wow.
again, just a technique where you have something so miniaturized. I saw something else recently with a needle with a sensor at the very tip that could
Hmm.
tell whether you were hitting blood or not.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Derma fillers, because evidently, ladies, be careful. 3 in every 1,000 derma fillers end
Yeah.
up having skin necrosis and other damaging things because they hit the blood vessel.
It's a risk.
So this allows you to put the needle in, detect this blood, pull out, don't do it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so just amazing things.
Yeah, and amazing all the other applications that you could expand that into if you think about,
Mhm.
lots of other opportunities.
Yeah.
So then with all those new technologies and with all the new approaches for addressing some of these pain points in the space, there's going to be challenges and ways that we can look to address that. So what are some of those key challenges you're following, or areas that you and your team are leveraging your expertise to address some of the challenges that are on the horizon?
Yeah, I think the main challenge for me in this world right now is not a technical one. I think it's funding for us, the medical world. Ever since the Silicon Valley collapse, there's been a real reticence on the part of investors. I see a lot of startups coming to us without very much funding at all. So how do we help them? What we're doing is we're guiding them to, I have a list of 250 angel investors, for example. We're guiding them to investors. We're guiding them a little bit with their, how they present their pitches. We can certainly help with the technical aspect. We're glad to help map out the costs for them. So there's a roadmap they can present to investors and say, here, we've got Start LLC, and if you give us this money, here are the steps we'll take to get there. We can help them with product rendering so that an investor can see what this thing actually could look like, because some of them may be very visual. You want to see it. We can help with inexpensive de-risking. So if we find a way to at least take some of the biggest challenges of the product and find a way to not too expensively de-risk some of it, we can at least make the pathway to getting a good investor behind you easier. So there are things like that we're doing. But I do see that hopefully getting better. But it's been a bit of a challenge. And interestingly, there's some real big money going into some areas. So it's not like the money's not there.
Hmm.
If you slap AI into something, money seems to come out of left field. But
Yeah.
also, heart, for example, right now, a lot of heart failure solutions are getting huge amounts of money. So we don't happen to do a lot in heart failure, although we have worked on an atrial fibrillation device for
Hmm.
cardio focus. So we do that kind of thing. But it seems to be some serious money in that area. And that's great because, I mean, we all could use that probably at some point.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
Hmm.
Then, what advancements do you see on the horizon? How might they impact our industry?
Well, I do see one thing that was very impressed with this. I ran into Dean Kamen recently, and organ printing is going to be real soon. I mean, he's got this ARMI, Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute, $300 million investment, probably more. And the idea that we can take stem cells from people and build a new kidney, a new bladder, and eventually a new heart, maybe even a new brain at some point. I don't know, but that we can eventually build all these organs that there's such a backlog of people looking for organ donations. If we can actually build them, not just build them, but build them custom to the very individual needing it, so there's no rejection. That's fascinating to me. The other day, and it was a meeting with a woman that claimed that within, let's see, by the year 2030, she'll be able to sell a printer, a 3D printer that can custom print DNA in
Wow.
24 hours for anybody for a mere $250,000.
Wow.
It's exciting, but also a little scary. You have
Hmm.
to make sure that doesn't go in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
So I see lots of great change. And the other thing is miniaturization. I can't emphasize enough. I've seen now literally little sensors on film that could be placed on the body or actually internally on an organ
Yeah.
and monitor, even something that might go on the heart and monitor things and make sure that, in fact, there's even one that could not only monitor the heart, but also maybe even shock it back into place if it needs. I mean, it's truly an amazing domain that we're in because I mean, we're talking about bionics, so we're talking about literally doing things, technically with our bodies
Yeah.
that are going to be just amazing. So every time I turn around, there's another announcement almost every week with something, some new attachment you can put on your body
Yeah.
to do something. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that in the next 10 years. So it's going to be a very exciting time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So then lastly, the question that I think a lot of people are excited to hear from our masterminds is really that advice
Mm.
piece, that given your wealth of experience in the broad areas that you've worked in, what advice do you have for companies or individuals that work in our medtech ecosystem?
Yeah, there's two things for people that are entrepreneurs and and even established companies that are dealing with a new product. One of them is to make sure there's a market for your innovation. Sometimes we'll see a great technical solution, but it's not clear there's a market there. Is it really going to save money? And even if it does, is there a code for it? Is there a way to get it backed by insurance? In some cases, it's probably worth the fight to make that happen. And the other thing is making sure you build a product that can be, well, this whole concept of the minimum viable product. Get the product out there. I see some people, there's one guy that came to us a while back that he had so many bells and whistles on his product. We kept telling him, you got to cut this back. You got to cut. He wasn't listening.
Mm,
And of course, he's not at the point yet where he's got the funding to continue, but it's frustrating to see someone that doesn't pay attention to really solid advice that we've seen just from, literally dozens of products that have made. In fact, Start has had over 20 products that have successfully been launched in the marketplace, and that's a pretty good track record. Um, and there's a way to get it done, and one of the ways is to get it done with the minimum amount of function to get it out there and address, let's say, 90% of the issue. The reason for that is your ability to get it tested and out there to the market quickly is more possible if you restrict it to some extent, but also you then have a path, a roadmap to continued innovation where you add, extra features and complexity down the road to address an ever bigger market share. And investors will like that. They will like the plan that you have in place to A, get after the more addressable market right away, and B, have an expansion plan in place to add additional features over time. But most importantly, by minimizing the amount of complexity, you increase your chances of success out of the gate.
yeah. Solve one problem really well before you try to solve multiple problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's some great advice and echoes in the people I speak with as well. So I think I agree with you for sure. And I think the great thing about talking to you today is hearing all of these amazing technologies that you've been a part of. And I'm definitely going to check out the blog on the Start
Mm.
LLC website, um, as you've been curating these interesting technologies
Oh
for
God,
all of
yeah.
us to take a look at. And appreciate that that expertise and that perspective that you bring to MDG and to the overall medtech ecosystem. So thank you. It's been great to talk to you.
Oh my God, thank you also for the opportunity. I'm really excited to do this and look forward to keeping in touch with all of you and being in your sessions and being a continued sponsor.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely wanted to thank your team at Start LLC as well, as they have been long-term supporters for MDG. And I know that we have Paul DeCesare as a speaker on previous forums that are on our previous events page. You can check that
Mhm.
out.
Excellent.
And then I'm sure folks can reach out to you, get to more information about Start and to hear more about some of these really interesting technologies.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah,
A
thank you.
Celentano at startllc.com.
Yeah, perfect. And then
Thank you so
just,
much.
yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Just lastly, would like to take a moment to highlight the MDG Boston mission, which is to promote and nurture an ecosystem that accelerates medical technology development by innovators and entrepreneurs to advance healthcare outcomes. And we hope you enjoyed this episode in support of our mission, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.